Hey guys, so last part of this lab, I talked to you guys earlier about your O2 tank conversion factors. These come in handy with this calculation and this formula that you're going to be using in a few minutes. So you need to remember this for the rest of the time that you're in the program and beyond. 3.14 for your H cylinder and 0.28 for your E cylinder. So we use this duration of the tank formula to make sure that we're going to have enough oxygen to go down to whatever procedure we're going down for. You know, if you know you're going to be down there for 4 hours, you're probably going to be using your big H cylinders versus your E cylinder tanks because you're going to have a lot more oxygen in that one versus the E cylinder. But we want to always calculate to make sure that we have the right amount before we go down because we don't want to run out of oxygen. Now, truth be told, you're in a hospital, so in the event that you ran out on your tank, you could always get another tank, but we're treating this as if you were out, say you're an outpatient and you grabbed an H cylinder to take the patient out of the hospital to another facility on site, but you had to leave the hospital. We want to make sure that we have enough oxygen to get Grandma or Mrs. Smith or whoever back from the outpatient place back into their room, okay? So earlier when I talked to y'all and showed you guys how to hook up and move your H cylinder, I noted that we were using 1500 PSI, and I wrote it down here so I could use it later for this calculation. We also turned it up to 4 liters per minute, and I'll get to that in a minute. So conversion, or the formula for the duration of the tank. You're gonna take your PSI minus a safety factor. Now, a safety factor is a factor that's been set by certain hospitals to once you get to a certain amount on your PSI, you change the tank out so you don't ever run out. Some hospitals use 200 PSI, some use 500 PSI. It just depends on hospitals. Now, if you do your checkoff and we don't give you guys a safety factor, then assume there is not one, unless said otherwise. But you would take your PSI minus your safety factor, you would times it by the conversion factor of whichever cylinder you're using, whether it's the H or the E cylinder, and then you're going to divide that total by liters per minute. So we'll start there. So based on the H cylinder that we're going to use, our PSI is 1500. We're not going to use a safety factor for right now. So 1500 PSI times 3.14 divided by 4 liters per minute. So I'm going to calculate that real quick. 1500 times 3.14 gives me 4710 divided by 4 gives me 1177.5. Okay, that's the first part of your answer. Now, once you get your number from this formula, you're going to divide that number by 60 to get your hours. So you're going to take 1177.5 divided by 60. It's going to give you 19.62. Once you've gotten your hours, this is your hours, you're going to take your 0.62, and you're going to times it, your decimal, whatever your decimal is, you're going to take it, you're going to times it by 60 to get your minutes. Now, the answer, unless it's less than an hour, will be in hours and seconds if it's done correctly. So your answer should be 19 hours and 36 minutes. Now, with that being said, where you're going to get a lot of questions of, what if this 19.62, what if I do 19.6, or what if I do 19.63, because if there's a 5 at the end of that. If you take 19.6 and you take the 0.6 and times it by 60 and you get less than 36 minutes, I'm fine with that as long as you're within this range. But if you have some crazy number that doesn't even make sense, it's going to be wrong. Also, 19.62 is not your final answer, okay? It's super important. We can do one more calculation to make sure you guys have it, but got to make sure that you guys are taking this large number, dividing it by 60 to get your hours, and then you're taking your decimal and timesing it by 60 to get your minutes. That's how you're going to get your correct answer.